When you look at your bank account and see that direct deposit from the Treasury for your annual tax refund, you probably feel a sense of relief. You think the government is finally giving you your own money back, but you are living inside a massive accounting fiction. That money is entirely fake. The federal government does not have a vault sitting in Washington holding your excess tax payments from last year. They spent your specific tax dollars approximately 48 hours after you earned them. To pay your refund tomorrow, they have to literally print the money into existence tonight. We are talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in tax refunds that must be distributed over a highly compressed window of time. But the Treasury General Account is essentially running on fumes. They are operating the largest superpower on earth, like a broke college student living on credit. To generate the cash required to pay you, they have to execute massive Treasury bond auctions. They issue new sovereign debt to borrow the money they need to refund you. When organic buyers refuse to purchase that debt, the central bank steps in as the ultimate buyer of last resort completely today. This means that the exact mechanism used to process your tax refund is the identical mechanism driving the systemic inflation destroying your life. They are expanding the monetary base to pay you back. They are destroying the purchasing power of the dollar to fund your temporary financial relief. If you receive a $3,000 tax refund, but the creation of that money drives the cost of your groceries, housing, and energy up by $5,000 annually, you did not receive a refund. You received a massive stealth tax disguised as a financial victory by corrupt politicians now. The institutional investors and sovereign wealth funds understand this perfectly. They know that the spring tax refund season requires massive liquidity injections that further degrade the currency. They do not celebrate tax refunds. They use them to aggressively buy physical commodities globally. While retail consumers use their refunds to buy depreciating liabilities like televisions or vacations, the smart money is quietly accumulating physical silver. They know that silver is the ultimate antidote to a sovereign treasury that must print money just to balance its basic accounting ledger. You have to recognize the absurdity of the current system. The United States government is adding $1 trillion to the national debt every 100 days. The interest expense alone on that massive mountain of sovereign debt is completely consuming the entirety of the federal tax receipts. This means that every single dollar the government spends on the military, on infrastructure, on social programs, and on your tax refund is entirely borrowed money. It is a mathematical death spiral. The system is structurally broken, and the people in charge are terrified of letting you know the truth. They use the spectacle of tax season to maintain the illusion of government solvency. They want you to believe that the system is functioning normally. But behind the scenes, the plumbing of the global financial architecture is completely seizing up under the weight of $36 trillion in debt. When the Treasury floods the market with new bonds to pay for these refunds, they are draining liquidity from the rest of the financial system. This forces the Federal Reserve into an impossible paradox. They have to print more digital dollars to monetize the debt, or the entire banking sector fails. Every time they choose to print, they are quietly confiscating the wealth of the middle class. Inflation is not an accident or a byproduct of greedy corporations. It is the deliberate policy of a central bank that must devalue the currency to prevent a catastrophic default of the sovereign state. The smart money knows that this currency devaluation is mathematically inescapable. That is why they are aggressively converting their fiat paper into tangible reality. They are looking at the price of physical silver and recognizing it as the most asymmetric investment opportunity in human history. Silver has been artificially suppressed by the bullion banks for decades. They have created a fractional reserve derivative market where hundreds of paper contracts exist for every single ounce of physical metal sitting in their vaults. They have used this paper flood to hide the inflation reality. By keeping the price of silver historically low, the banking cartel has subsidized the massive technological expansion of the modern world. Every solar panel, every electric vehicle, and every advanced military guidance system relies entirely on the unique conductive properties of physical silver atoms. The global economy cannot function without a massive uninterrupted supply of this critical industrial metal. But the paper suppression scheme has completely destroyed the incentive for mining companies to explore and develop new silver deposits. The global mining sector is completely exhausted today. We are currently living through the 5th consecutive year of a severe structural physical deficit. The world is burning through hundreds of millions of ounces more than we are pulling out of the ground. The massive above-ground stockpiles that have buffered this deficit for decades are vanishing. The industrial giants know that a supply crisis is imminent. They are watching the COMEX and the LBMA registered inventories plummet to historic lows. They understand that a paper futures contract cannot conduct electricity. They are entirely dependent on the physical reality of the silver metal. When the industrial users panic and realize that the Western vaults are practically empty, they will completely bypass the manipulated paper exchanges. They will engage in a relentless bidding war to secure whatever physical metal remains on the open market. They will pay any price to survive now. This industrial panic will coincide perfectly with the collapse of confidence in the fiat dollar. When the retail masses finally realize that their tax refunds are just newly printed illusions designed to pacify them, they will rush for the exits. But the exit door into physical assets is very small. If you wait for the financial media to announce that the dollar is collapsing and physical silver is in a shortage, you will be entirely locked out. You will log onto a bullion dealer website and see every single product listed as out of stock. The secondary market premiums will absolutely explode. You must position yourself before the panic becomes undeniable. You have a very brief window to use your depreciating fiat currency to acquire absolute financial sovereignty. You must reject the digital illusions sold by Wall Street and embrace the tangible reality of precious physical metals today. If you are holding unallocated silver accounts at a major bank or exchange-traded funds that do not guarantee physical delivery, you are still trapped inside the matrix. You are an unsecured creditor to the exact same institutions that are actively manipulating the market and destroying the currency. When the systemic liquidity crisis triggers the collapse of the paper pricing mechanism, those institutions will invoke force majeure. They will halt physical deliveries and cash settle your paper accounts using the artificially suppressed spot price. You will receive a deposit of worthless dollars. You will be left holding fiat currency while the true physical price of silver detaches completely from the exchange and skyrockets to reflect its actual scarcity. The wealth transfer from the paper holders to the physical possessors will be the most brutal and absolute event in modern finance. The only way to immunize your portfolio against this algorithmic theft is to take absolute physical custody of the asset. When you hold a sovereign minted silver coin or a recognized bullion bar in your own private possession, you completely eliminate all institutional counterparty risk from your life. Your physical stack cannot be hacked. It cannot be frozen by a desperate commercial bank. It cannot be arbitrarily diluted by a central bank printing press. It is a sovereign asset that requires no third-party permission to maintain its historical value. It is the ultimate financial anchor today. Do not let the engineered volatility of the spot price distract you from the macroeconomic reality. The bullion banks will continue to execute massive paper dumps at critical moments to trigger retail panic and shake out weak hands. They want you to surrender your physical position back to them entirely. Every time they smash the paper price to protect their naked short positions, you must view it as a massive gift. You're being allowed to trade a dying currency for a vastly undervalued critical commodity. Let the banks subsidize your acquisition of generational wealth while they fight for survival. The Treasury is going to send you a refund check printed entirely out of thin air. The absolute smartest financial decision you can make is to immediately convert that fake money into real money. Take their newly created debt unit and exchange it for a physical asset that has survived every empire. We are standing on the precipice of a monumental shift in global economic power. The Eastern nations are already executing this exact strategy. China and India are aggressively draining the Western physical vaults while continuously dumping their holdings of United States Treasury bonds on the market. They are exchanging Western debt for physical commodities. They know that the dollar standard is fracturing under the weight of unpayable deficits. They are securing the raw materials required for the 21st century while the West drowns in a sea of digital derivatives and political theater. You must align your personal financial strategy with the actions of the sovereign whales. Do not listen to the words of the Federal Reserve Chairman or the Treasury Secretary. Look strictly at what the global central banks are buying. They are buying physical gold, and they are buying physical silver. The era of trusting centralized institutions to protect your purchasing power is definitively over. You must become your own central bank. You must take responsibility for the preservation of your labor and your energy. Physical silver offers the perfect asymmetric defense against this monetary collapse. It provides the safety of historical money combined with the explosive upside potential of a critical industrial shortage. There is no other asset class that offers this unique dual protection in a rapidly destabilizing geopolitical environment. The mathematical fundamentals are completely undeniable. The paper trap is set and the liquidity vacuum is forming. The tax refunds are just another symptom of a system that relies entirely on monetary expansion to delay its inevitable reckoning. Use their desperation to your advantage. Secure your physical position and watch the illusion finally shatter. Do not be the retail investor who realizes the truth only after the purchasing power of their currency has been entirely decimated. Take action while the transition is still quiet. Educate yourself, accumulate consistently, and hold the line against the psychological warfare of the banking cartel now. Your financial independence depends entirely on your ability to see through the accounting fictions of the government. The money does not exist until tomorrow because they have to print it. But the silver exists today. Make sure it exists in your own hands before the rest of the world wakes up.